that if this lockdown does not end, then I will keep on uploading my videos on YouTube and you will have to keep on watching those videos. Well, let's not go there. In the process, and I'm going to give you 10 tips. At first, I will give you a summary of what I've already created and uploaded on my YouTube channel. At first, we talked about degree attestation procedure. We talked about Pakistan in particular, and we discussed the procedure, complete procedure involving higher education systems degree attestation service through courier service in this COVID-19 situation. After that video, we uploaded another video. It was titled as First Step of Immigration, which is ECA, Educational Credential Assessment, where you send your documents to the host country for the evaluation purpose. In that video, we covered that there are many ECA bodies out there like WES, World Education Service, Sess, Comparative Education Service by University of Toronto, and we also compared these two, and then we came up with a choice that which ECA body is the best. And then in the next video, the third video of my YouTube channel, it was all about Comparative Education Service, Sess. In that video, I covered the step-by-step procedure of Sess, and how do you send your documents to University of Toronto and how do you get them evaluated. So I'm assuming that you're looking for answers and you have chosen Sess as your go-to service for evaluating your degrees, and you're already in the process, and I'm going to give you 10 tips. 10 tips on how to complete your procedure with Sess with perfection, that there's no problem whatsoever and you go through it smoothly. So let's start with the tips. Tip number 1. Use colored copies when you're sending your documents to Sess. Many people asked me when I uploaded that video, HEC Degree Attestation Procedure, that can we send over black and white copies instead of colored copies? And in that video, I told them as a preliminary step, and I suggested in that video as a preliminary step to ECA that use colored copies. Do not go for black and white paper just for the sake of saving a few rupees. I mean, these are your educational documents. They have value, and these documents are verified, attested, validated by Higher Education Commission of Pakistan. So why go for black and white copies? Just simply go with colored copies. It's also their requirement. They need colored copies. They do not want black and white copies of your educational documents because they value a lot. So now let's move on to tip number 2. Tip number 2 is that your degrees attestation dates need to be fresh. They cannot be 2 years old degree attestation dates. The sealed envelope cannot be dated back 3 years. A lot of people ask me these questions, and I've told them that why do you not get your degrees attested once again? What's the problem with that? I mean, it won't be that much money because now you have your original documents already attested. You will not have to pay for that. Only you will need to pay for the copies. And attesting those copies is not much expensive. So just go with it again. Get them attested again. Get them with fresh dates. Get them sealed in fresh dates. And then send those documents to Sess. Why do you want to risk your $210? Now that being said, let's move on to tip number 3. Tip number 3. Use a passport. When you're scanning your documents in the Sess portal, use your passport. You should not use your CNIC because your CNIC will have your address written in Urdu and you will need to get it translated and then you will need to get it notarized. So why go through all that trouble? Because we are here simplifying the procedure. So do not use your CNIC. Just go with your passport. And if you don't have your passport, then get one. Because you are starting your immigration process, you need to have your passport in your hand. Without further ado, tip number 4. Use credit card. Use your own credit card. Get a credit card. I mean, when you're going through this procedure, there are many steps that require fee payment. When you're going to pay those fees, would you be going to somebody else and borrow their credit card? Or you should be using your own credit card? I mean, I believe everybody has their bank accounts and you can get credit cards from those banks. There will be no problem. So just get your own credit card so that the procedure is smooth. You do not need to borrow somebody else's credit card. So let's move on to tip number 5. Tip number 5 is actually my suggestion. When you have compiled all your documents and then you have gone to the courier service for sending them to University of Toronto. So what you do is, in that envelope, you should send a physical copy of your passport. Now, you have compiled all the documents, right? And you are now going to send them to University of Toronto. So in that envelope, you should also attach a copy of your passport. I mean, your degrees have your name on it. Your envelope will have your student number on it, but I suggest attaching your physical copy of your passport as well for identification purpose so that they know who you are. And there's no problem with that. So moving on to step number 6. Send the payment receipt along the documents. You have already paid for Sess, I'm assuming that. And they have given you a receipt which can be printed out. Print that out and attach it in the envelope with your documents so that they know that you have already paid for the procedure and there will be no delays. I mean, it's my suggestion, it's not a requirement, it's my suggestion. So if you do it, it will be better. Now take a look at step number 7. Write an application with your own handwriting. I mean, what's the problem with that? So in that application, you should write that this is my name, this is my student number, I'm sending these documents to you and I need to get them evaluated as soon as possible. I mean, you should write an explanation for a better understanding for them. That being said, let's move on to step number 8. Tip number 8 was provide an educational summary of all your previous qualification, because you would be sending your highest degree to Sess. Let's say it's master's degree. And if you're applying for provincial programs, then you would be sending your graduation degrees along as well. So other than that master's degree or both of those university degrees, give them an educational summary of your previous qualification, that is your college degrees, right? That will help them decide better for your assessment. Tip number 9. As I said in the previous tip, that you should provide an educational summary like a resume of your previous qualifications. So now in this step, I'm going to suggest to you that you also provide them a photocopy set of all your qualifications, because it will help them understand what your education level is and it will help them assess your degrees better. Now again, these are all tips, they are not steps. So I'm only suggesting these things, they are optional and they are not required. So if you have already sent your documents to Sess and you're wondering that you have not followed these tips, then you might be worried about it, that oh, I did not send my educational summary, now what's going to happen? So don't worry about it, it's okay, it's just okay. I'm just suggesting these tips so that your process is more smoother. But if you have already gone through the process and you did not follow these tips, then don't worry about it, it's okay. Just relax yourself, because in this COVID-19 situation, your mental peace is very important to me. Now last but not the least, tip number 10, the last tip. Call Sess. So tip number 10 is call them if you have any confusion. I mean, if you're going through the procedure and you are facing problems in it, you are confusing yourself, then instead of confusing yourself, you should simply call them up. They are really friendly and they are really helpful. They understand your questions and then they help you out in every possible way. So I would suggest, if you have any questions, then instead of going towards a consultation agency, just call the Sess itself, because they will help you out and they will get you out of your confusion. And their suggestion is always valid and authentic. And they are a friendly company. So, I mean, when you call them, you would really like it and you would want to call them again. So these were my top 10 tips for Comparative Education Service. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and keep following the channel, because I will be uploading another video which will be the final chapter of our ECA process. That was the first process of immigration. So we will be completing our ESA saga in the next video. So stay tuned with my channel and wait for that video. Thank you very much. This is Iftikhar and I'm signing off.